Welcome to the second part of our FIFA World Cup review show. I'm your host, Sydney.
I'm your host, Benazir. Thank you for joining us this evening. Sydney, we had a very, very exciting last two games for the World Cup. Russia was an absolute great host.
Absolutely.
For many reasons, Russia came out of this winning, even though their team didn't win. Let's talk about the England and the Belgium game first before we go into the final. What are your thoughts on it?
Third and fourth place for me were very key positions to fight for in this World Cup. It was the second matchup between England and Belgium. And obviously in anticipating that match, we needed to see a good fight because given the caliber of teams that Belgium possessed, as well as England themselves, they need to prove themselves to see how far either one could reach. So in taking on that game, much credit to Belgium.
Yeah.
And I'll be more critical about England from that.
Yeah, and we see that Harry Kane got the Golden Boot award for scoring the most goals in the tournament. We see that Eden Hazard came second to Luka Modric for the Golden Ball.
Yeah.
And also their keeper Courtois won Golden Glove. So from the third and fourth positions, we had very, very the players were the players were key. They did a fantastic job and they deserved where they got to.
Absolutely. Strong individual performances on each side. Harry Kane, like you mentioned, getting the Golden Boot. Courtois getting the Golden Glove. And on the whole, Belgium put together a side that definitely came through and deserved the third place above England.
Definitely. So now let's go into what everyone's probably waiting to hear from us.
The 6-goal World Cup final thriller. That was a final that, for me personally, had every ingredient of a thrilling, exciting, and best World Cup final I've watched to date.
Yeah, and if you see, if you go onto Twitter, if you go onto Instagram, a lot of people are saying that if this is not one of the best World Cups that the world has ever seen, it is the best.
Yes.
It was amazing. The performances yesterday were absolutely stellar. We saw some of the best players play on the biggest stage in the world of football. So in terms of the goals, okay, let's go to the predictions that we made last week.
Yes.
So last week we both thought Croatia was going to win.
Yes, absolutely.
We said if they played how they played. After what happened yesterday, how do you feel now?
Croatia definitely came with the fight that I expected them to come with. They played consistent football throughout the tournament. They fought good individual performances from their standout players, Mandzukic, Perisic, Modric. So their tempo was exactly as I'd hoped to see.
Yeah.
And to give France a deserved winners a tough game. So I definitely predicted Croatia based on the fact that I wanted to see an exciting game, which despite the results, despite their loss, they fought to the very end.
They did.
Their style of play didn't back down. Their tempo didn't back down. Their energy was still high. So yeah.
Would you say that Croatia played as good and as hard as they played, like how they played against England? Or in this game were they a bit, I don't know. I feel, for me, they played as hard as they played, but they played a better team than England.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And notably, France being the better team. Throughout the tournament, I think it would be safe to say France played clean, consistent football throughout their games. I didn't see them struggle per se against other teams. They got their leads early on in the games consistently and managed to play formations and styles of play that would maintain that score or plug in more goals.
So now the goals, Sydney. In the 18th minute, Mandzukic scored an own goal for his side.
Heartbreak.
And you could see it on his face. He was completely shattered. He was completely disappointed in himself. But towards the end of the game, in the 68th minute, he redeemed himself.
Absolutely.
So that own goal, how do you feel about that own goal?
I think it was as soccer gives it to us. You know, it's a beautiful and a cruel game. At that point in the game, I think the tempo was still fair on both sides. There was no telling when that break would come, and in the effort of trying to clear the ball and defend his corner, he unfortunately slid it past their keeper.
Yeah. So Sydney, my thoughts on this game are, if that own goal wasn't scored and if that penalty by Griezmann didn't go in, there might have been an equalizer that would have led to the penalties between the two teams.
Yeah.
I feel like an own goal is an own goal, but like Dalic said in an interview after the game, in a final there shouldn't be a penalty.
Yeah.
It's unfair. It's a World Cup final. There shouldn't have been that.
Yeah.
Do you think that without the own goal and the penalty, there would have been an equalizer?
I certainly believe so. On a personal note, just again looking at the tempo of the game, looking at the caliber of teams that matched up head to head, I think we would have had a thrilling end of the game, possibly an extra time. And if they were going to be penalties, I would have much preferred them to be after extra time. But as football gives us, there's really no telling to this.
Definitely. And then we saw that Kante got injured. So Kante had to be substituted by Nzonzi. Do you think that Kante coming out changed the dynamics of the game in any way?
To a certain extent, to a small extent, as far as again, I keep using the word the tempo of the game. Kante being France's engine and key player in the midfield, it sort of maybe slowed down their pace of attack or their stance in defense. But notably on Kante himself, I think he's one that's had quiet mention, but one of the biggest successes of this World Cup, biggest winners, just from his individual career, having won 2 Premier League titles back to back, one at Leicester, and then when he transferred to Chelsea, and then won the FA Cup, and then now World Cup winner. He came in with a good momentum to perform and to be one of their standout players. Definitely,
Sydney. And let's talk about that Pogba goal. That was brilliant on all levels. That was an absolutely brilliant goal. We saw football that was played with a passion. We saw Griezmann, Mbappe, and Pogba.
Yeah.
The three of them, they passed to each other perfectly. Yeah. Pogba shot perfectly. The defender bounced off the defender, and he shot again with his left foot. Now, Pogba's not left-footed.
Yeah.
So do you think for the defender, if they knew that, they were thinking, oh no, but he's not going to score because he's not left-footed, and that's the only way he can score.
Yeah.
And then we saw a shot at goal, in goal, with his left foot.
From a rebound at that. Again, that for me, that was just a show of individual brilliance and Pogba's individual talent finally coming to the game. And much like we mentioned in our first show, for me, he was one of France's players that was yet to blossom and to have his moment. And he certainly did. And speaking of that goal, he's actually the one that started the attack. He's gave that long knock all the way to Mbappe. Mbappe was absolutely brilliant in holding up that ball, crosses it back into the midsection, laid off from Griezmann. Pogba has his shot, and again, off a rebound, manages to slot it in. So it was a good combination of team effort, team momentum, and individual brilliance.
Now, this World Cup, we've seen the Wonder Kid, and there's no questioning who that is. It's a no-brainer. Kylian Mbappe, he won Best Young Player award, and he totally deserved it. The last time a teenager scored in a World Cup final was when Pele in 1958 scored against Sweden, and Pele was 17, Mbappe's 19. But Mbappe has this flair, and where do you think now, after this World Cup, and that the world has seen him on this stage, where do you think his career is going to go?
As much commentary has been said about him, sky's the limit for this kid.
Yeah.
He literally has the world at his feet. He's young, he's talented, he's strong, he has all the attributes that, no matter how critical you are of him as an individual or as an analyst, you want to see his brilliance, you want to see him blossom. And what better time to start at 19 years old? He's definitely the new kid gunning for that throne.
Yeah.
after the greats right now.
Definitely. The last goal in the 68th minute, Mario Mandzukic scored for Croatia. Now, if you watch that goal, it was literally Mandzukic against the goalkeeper, against Lloris. That was all it was. Now, on this, do you think it was a goal that Mandzukic worked for, or do you think it was careless on the goalkeeper?
To be fair, I think it would be on. It would go both ways. A lot of goalkeepers throughout this tournament, we look back at David De Gea's mistake. These are unfortunate moments in football where you do slack off a bit and you're a bit lax. But on Mandzukic's part, a bit of luck, but also a lot of persistence as well. And it was deserved for him, redeeming himself from an own goal for his country in the World Cup final. A bit late on in the game, but good effort on his part.
Very good effort. So that's been our analysis for the final between Croatia and France. We're going to take a break and we'll see you after.
Whistles, the wind go through us. We make the noise.
Там is what that guys my was to drop from console. Apu. Hey, quero cá para conversar estava bem
Diva importanza kulonga lero tachanguka wali ano mutemu kwaobe kuchechi ero nombo amafuku yawe chimwazo ndi mutuitu ngishani nasecha phone wasenda phone futhi waphela omwe wakaya kutura kokuluku ukalande tethi yakuya pano nyani.
May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you. Amen.
Now we've talked about the third and fourth place. We've talked about the final between Croatia and France. Now we're going to go into the awards. Sydney, there was a lot of awards that were handed out yesterday, even after the game.
Yeah.
We saw Luka Modric, for example. Luka Modric won the Golden Ball Award.
Yeah.
Do you think there was another player in the tournament that deserved this?
Personally, I don't think anyone deserved it more than Luka Modric. Given, coming off of a team that were first-time finalists in their sporting history, and his consistency throughout the tournament, and for his position, his key position, a midfielder's position is one that really runs the tempo of the game. You're considered the engine of the team, and I don't see any other player other than Luka Modric that put his heart, soul, socks, and boots in for his country.
Yeah.
So he absolutely, for me, deserves the Golden Ball.
We saw that following up Luka Modric was Eden Hazard and Antoine Griezmann. Don't you think that Antoine Griezmann, after his performance in the final, deserved this?
Absolutely. For the final game, he definitely showed up in all his brilliance. And you could see it through his emotions after the celebrations. He was one of the French players captured, bawling his eyes out with relief and with such passion for the game, and he showed it throughout the game.
He definitely did. And then we saw like we mentioned earlier, the Best Young Player Award. Kylian Mbappe got awarded this. There's no question about that. The whole world knows that Kylian Mbappe deserved this award.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Now let's talk a bit about after the game, Sydney. It was very interesting to see the way everything was set up.
Yeah.
So we had the presidents, the teams going up to collect their medals. We had the presidents there,
Yeah.
and when you saw it, the French president with his men, the guys that took the World Cup to France,
Yeah.
what were your feelings when you saw that?
I saw obviously a proud president,
Yeah.
a proud country. You know, obviously their second World Cup win. So it was a good show of camaraderie and togetherness that a very diverse French team that I don't believe we've ever seen, even given their immigrant backgrounds. From Griezmann himself,
Yeah.
his father being German and his mother as well being non-French. There was a very strong cohesiveness among the players, and even notably with a little bit of mischief that was pointed out during the tournament. The French players having, after I believe it was a quarterfinal,
Yeah.
having gone out and then coming back to the hotel room and getting in a bit of mischief, playing with fire hoses
Yeah.
and causing a bit of stir there. They seem to carry this team camaraderie and good spirit about their time at the World Cup,
Yeah.
their time together. And when you pair that with the kind of football they played, they definitely came to get the job done.
Definitely.
So all in all, fast forward back to the celebrations with their president receiving them. It was a good show, well deserved, and the whole country is definitely partying right now.
Definitely. And an interesting fact about after the World Cup was in France they have the Arc de Triomphe, and it's one of the most monumental statues or monumental things that France has. And after the game, every single player's face was projected onto the Arc de Triomphe,
Wow.
and it was crazy. I read a lot of articles that said it was amazing, but it was very intense in Paris, in the whole of France. There was cars that had flipped over. So I think for the nation, it was something that they didn't expect. I saw Griezmann said in an interview, he said after he won the award, he said, "I don't know where I am."
Yeah.
So for them, it was disbelief. They couldn't believe that they had gotten it, and then they were taking the World Cup home.
Yeah.
And if you see on Paul Pogba's Instagram, he's singing and he's making a joke towards the English players, and he's singing "It's Coming Home." And
Yeah.
then towards the end, he's saying, "Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." But it's just the team spirit that I saw, that I witnessed, is something that is truly it. All of them were together. There was no I, there was no anything else but we.
Yeah.
It was we going to win this, and we did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a huge time for their lives. In fact, their lives will never be the same here on out, for all the reasons possible from this win alone. They're now considered the kings of football for the next 4 years, and what they've achieved together as a team is going to last between them for a lifetime. Their individual careers have shot up in value, deservedly so. So whatever path these guys take individually, they'll forever be bonded as that one team that definitely brought it to their home,
To their home,
to their country, and it's a deserved shared experience for them.
And when we talk about Croatia, so let's not forget about Croatia.
Yes.
We talk about Croatia. The Croatian president, who is a female, very beautiful lady, she has been there for every single game that Croatia played.
Yeah.
So every game she flew in, and she flew in economy class. She didn't fly in business class, even though she's the president of Croatia. But I think when you saw her hugging the team after they won, after they came second,
Yeah.
it was, you could see that she was coming from a place of just pure love and pure happiness. You made it this far. I mean, Croatia's the second smallest nation in the world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So for them, I think getting this far in the World Cup, getting
Yeah.
to the final, is an absolute achievement that nobody can take away from
Yeah.
them.
Population of about 4 million. Again, it was a good show on her part. You know, to exude this sense of nurturing and motherliness towards her boys. so to speak.
Yeah.
And to console them and to support them and again just show that togetherness. Especially given the fact that it's their first time in the final World Cup final ever. So
Ever. Now, when we look at the host Russia, Sydney, what do you think they're going to take from this as a country, as a nation, the Russian people? What are they taking away from hosting one of the best World Cups?
I believe this has been one of, if not the most grand World Cups, given just a lot of simple, basic factors. The scale of Russia, the size of that country, the rich culture in Russia. They've definitely opened up their arms and hearts to the world, and I believe the world has now fallen in love with Russia, and it's nothing but more success in terms of hosting sporting events, and obviously recently now political meetings between Putin and Trump. Hopefully they get to resolve that. But it's definitely a win for Russia in every aspect. The world has definitely now absorbed Russia and taken it on as a new neighbor, new place to be.
Yes, definitely. I read today that FIFA, in total, there was $400 million that was spent, like given away to the teams.
Yeah.
The France team took away $38 million. Croatia took away $28 million. Now, this is a lot of money. We know this. But for FIFA, it means something because of all the allegations, all the stories that have gone on about FIFA. And what do you think it means for FIFA?
I think this is also a huge win for FIFA as an organization, especially coming off of the transition that they went through. Given that it was marred by scandal and all sorts of organizational mess. It's a good show of transparency of what they're doing with earnings from this World Cup and allocations. This is a first for me to hear of certain amounts being allocated to winning teams, that specifically and that open. So huge win for FIFA, absolutely huge win.
Definitely a huge win for FIFA, a huge win for Russia, a huge win for the whole world. We say thank you to Russia. We say thank you to you for watching us. Good night from us.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Залог той свежести, с которой он поедет на чемпионат мира. А вот удар штангу Поль вставляет партнера. Вот и Поль Погба на позиции чуть правее. Это заброс. Ловит мяч Жиру. Штрафной у мяча Антон Гризман. Высокая подача. Удар поворотом. Прямо количество голов Зинедина Зидана за сборную. Ну вот сейчас красивая передача на Матюди. Вот Менди подача Жиру. Ну и что придумать? Мне кажется, хочется решить атаку самостоятельно. Нет, передачи на Гризмана, удар. Останавливайся, просто продолжая его полет. Смотрим здесь. Гризман очень тонко играет, выходя из офсайда. А у Франции этого нет. Победа над Италией, Ирландией. И вот здесь нормальная игра, даже гол будет сейчас. Так осторожно, как хищник. Нет, недовольство, я полагаю, у прессы местной 4. Ох, какая красивая передача. Менди, штрафной, прострел, удар. Пиво. На грани офсайда. В любом случае, это хорошее решение использовать ваны. Есть блеск Матюди. И Погба есть на дуге. Поднял руку. Убрал под правую, под левую. Удар. Значит, Штефан забрал этот мяч. Ну так или иначе, бой или нет, или нет, нет. Как раз Кидин готовил к овертайму. Замены. Похожие, может быть, процессы, что и в сборной США, да, сошли великие австралийские. Передача чуть вперед и тут же диагонали. И Гризман! Эй-эй-эй-эй. Да, что-то здесь от баскетбола. Мбаппе наверху.